Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Canto 1, Chapter 9, Text 25. Sutta Vacha Yudhishthirastad Akanya Shayanam Shara Panjare Aprachar Vividan Dharman Roshinam Chanushran Vatam.
Sutta Goswami said, Maharaj Yudhishthir, after hearing Bhishmadev speak in that appealing tone, asked him in the presence of all the great rishis about the essential principles of various religious duties.
Text 26. Purusha Swabhava Vihitam Yatha Varnam Yatha Shramam Vairagya Ragopadibhyam Amnato Bhaya Lakshanam.
At Maharaj Yudhishthir's inquiry, Bhishmadev first defined all the classification of caste and orders of life in terms of individuals' qualification. Then he systematically, in twofold divisions, described counteraction by detachment and interaction by attachment.
Text 27. Dana Dharma Raja Dharma Moksha Dharma Vibhagasaha Stri Dharma Bhagavad Dharma Samasa Vyasa Yogataha.
He then explained by divisions X on charity, the pragmatic activities of a king and activities for salvation. Then he described the duties of women and devotees, both briefly and extensively.
Text 28. Dharmartha Kama Moksancha Sahopayan Yatha Mune Nanakya Neti Ha Sesu Varnayam Asha Tattvavid.
Then he described the occupational duties of different orders and status of life, citing instances from history, for he was himself well acquainted with the truth.
Text 29. Dharmam pravadatastasya sakala pratyupastitaha yo yoginas chandra mrityo vanchitas tutarayanaha.
While Bhishmadev was describing occupational duties, the sun's course ran into the northern hemispheres. This period is desired by mystics who die at their will.
Text 30. Tadopasamritya girasasanir vimukta sangamana adi purushe Krishne lasapite pate chaturbhuje purastite militadrik yadarayat.
Thereupon, that men who spoke on different subjects with thousands of meanings and who fought on thousands of battlefields and protected thousands of men stopped speaking and being completely freed from all bondage, withdrew his mind from everything else and fixed his wide open eyes upon the original personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, who stood before him, four-handed, dressed in a yellow garment, and that glittered and shined.
Text 31. Vishudaya dharanaya hatu subhas tat iksayat vasugata yudha shamaha nivritta sarvendriya vritti vibramas tustava janya vrishajan janardanam.
By pure meditation, looking at Lord Sri Krishna, he at once was freed from all material inauspiciousness and was relieved of all bodily pains caused by the arrow's wounds. Thus, all the external activities of his senses at once stopped, and he prayed transcendentally to the controller of all living beings while quitting his material body.
Text 32. Shri Bhishma Vacha Itir Matir Upakalpita Vritsana Bhagavati Satvata Pungave Vibhumni Swasukam Upagate Kvachit Vihartum Prakritim Upeyushi Tadbhava Pravaha.
Bhishma Dev said, "Let me now invest my thinking, feeling, and willing, which were so long engaged in different subjects and occupational duties, in the all-powerful Lord Sri Krishna. He is always self-satisfied, but sometimes, being the leader of the devotees, he enjoyed transcendental pleasure by descending to the material world, although from him only the material world is created."
Text 33. Tribhuvana Kamana Kamamama Tamalavarnam Ravikara Gauravara Ambaram Dadane Vapur Ala Kulavatana Jam Vijaya Sakerati Astume Navadya.
Krishna is the intimate friend of Arjun. He has appeared on this earth in his transcendental body, which resembles the bluish color of the Tamala tree. His body attracts everyone in the three planetary system, upper, middle, and lower. May his glittering yellow dress and his lotus face covered with paintings of sandalwood pulp be the object of my attraction, and may I not desire fruitive results.
Text 34. Yudi Turaga Raja Vidromara Vishwa Kacha Lolita Samavari Alankratasye Mama Nisita Sare Vividyamana Kachi Vilasat Puachestu Krishna Atma.
On the battlefield, where Sri Krishna attended Arjuna out of friendship, the flowing hair of Lord Krishna turned ashen due to the dust raised by the hoofs of the horses, and because of his labor, beads of sweat wetted his face. All these decorations, intensified by the wounds dealt by my sharp arrows, were enjoyed by him. Let my mind thus go unto Sri Krishna.
Text 35. Sapadi Sakhi Vacho Nisamya Madhye Nija Parayor Balayor Ratam Niveshya Titavati Parasanikayur Akshna Titavati Pata Sakerati Mamastu.
In obedience to the command of his friend, Lord Sri Krishna entered the arena of battlefield of Kurukshetra between the soldiers of Arjun and Duryodhan. And while there he shortened the lifespans of the opposite party by his merciful glance. This was done simply by his looking at the enemy. Let my mind be fixed upon that Krishna.
Text 36. Vyavahita Pratana Mukham Nirikshya Swajana Vadat Vimukhasya Dosa Buddhya Kumatim Aharat Atma Vidyaya Charanarati Paramasya Tasya Mestu.
When Arjun was seemingly polluted by ignorance upon observing the soldiers and commanders before him on the battlefield, the Lord eradicated his ignorance by delivering transcendental knowledge. May his lotus feet always remain the object of my attraction.
Text 37. Swanigamam apahaya matra pradignam pratim adhikartum avapluto ratastaha vrita ratha charano vyayach chalagdu harir iva hantum ivam gato tariya.
Fulfilling my vow and sacrificing his own promise, he got down from the chariot, took up its wheel, and ran towards me hurriedly, just as a lion goes to kill an elephant. He even dropped his outer garments on the way.
Text 38. Shita Vishikha Hata Vishanidamsha Sataja Paripluta Atata me Prasabam Abhisarara Mad Vadatham Bhavatu me Bhagavan Gatir Mukundaha.
May he, Lord Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, who awards salvation, be my ultimate destination on the battlefield. He charged me as if angry because of the wounds dealt by my sharp arrows. His shield was scattered, and his body was smeared with blood due to the wounds.
Text 39. Vijaya Rata Kutumba Ata Tatre Tritahaya Rashmini Takshiyakaniye Bhagavati Ratir Astume Mamurso Yamiva Niriksha Hata Gata Swarupam.
At the moment of death, let my ultimate attraction be to Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead. I concentrate my mind upon the chariot driver of Arjuna, who stood with a whip in his right hand and a bridle rope in his left, who was very careful to give protection to Arjun's chariot by all means. Those who saw him on the battlefield of Kurukshetra attained their original forms after death.
Text 40. Lalita Gati Vilasa Valguhasa Pranaya Nirikshana Kalpito Rumanaha Kritam Anukratavatya Unmadandha Prakritim Agankila Yasya Gopavadvaha.
Let my mind be fixed upon Lord Shri Krishna, whose motions and smiles of love attract, attract, attracted the demisal of Rajatam, the gopis. The demisals imitated the characteristic movement of the Lord after his disappearance from the Rasa dance.
Text 41. Muni Gana Nipavarya Sankulenta Tadashi Yudhishthira Rajasuya Esam Arhanam Upaveda Iksyantyo Mama Drishi Gochara Esa Avir Atma.
At the Rajasuya Yajna sacrifice performed by Maharaj Yudhishthir, there was the greatest assembly of all the elite men of the world, the royal and learned order. And in that great assembly, Lord Shri Krishna was worshipped by one and all as the most exalted personality of Godhead. This happened during my presence, and I remembered the incidents in order to keep my mind upon the Lord.
Text 42. Tamimam aham ajam sharira bhajam priti hridi dishtitam atma kalpitanam pratidrasham taiva naika dharkum ekam samadhi gatosmi viduta bheda moha.
Now I can meditate with full concentration upon that one Lord, Sri Krishna, now present before me, because now I have transcended the misconception of duality in regard to his presence in everyone's heart. Even in the hearts of the mental speculators, he is in everyone's heart. The sun may be perceived differently, but the sun is one.
43. Sutta Vacha Krishna evam Bhagavati Manova Kristi Vitivi Atmani Atmanam Avashya no so antaha swasa uparama.
Sutta Goswami said, thus Krishnadev merged himself in the super soul Lord Shri Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, with his mind, speech, sight, and action, and thus he became silent and his breathing stopped.
Text 44. Sampadyamyanam agnaya vishvam brahmani niskale sarve babuvaste tushnim vayam shiva dinatyaye.
Knowing that Krishnadev has merged into unlimited eternity of the Supreme Absolute, all present there became silent like birds at the end of the day.
Text 45. Tatra dundubhayo netu deva manava vaditaha shashamsu sadhavo ragnam atpetu pushpa vristaya.
Thereafter, both men and demigods sounded drum in honor, and the honest royal order commenced demonstration of honor and respect, and from the sky fell showers of flowers.
Text 46. Tasya nirharam nadini sampare tasya bhargava yudhishthiraha karayitva muhurtam dukhito bhavat.
O descendant of Prabhu Sonaka, after performing funeral rituals for the dead body of Krishnadev, Maharaj Yudhishthir was momentarily overtaken by grief.
Text 47. Tustuvar munayo Krishna Krishnam tat goya namabi tataste Krishna hridaya Svashraman prayayu punaha.
All the great sages then glorified Lord Sri Krishna, who was present there by confidential Vedic hymns. Then all of them returned to their respective hermitages, bearing always Lord Krishna within their hearts.
Text 48. Tato yudhishthiro gatva saha Krishna kajavayam pitaram santvayam asha gandharanim cha tapasvinim.
Thereafter, Maharaj Yudhishthir at once went to his capital, Hastinapur, accompanied by Lord Shri Krishna, and there he consoled his uncle and aunt Gandhari, who was an ascetic.
Text 49. Pitra chanu mato raja vasudevanu moditaha chakara rajyam dharmena pitra paitamaham vibhu.
After this, the great religious king Yudhishthir, Maharaj Yudhishthir, executed the royal power in the kingdom strictly according to the codes of royal principles approved by his uncle and confirmed by Lord Shri Krishna.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Chandra Chaitanya Prabhu. That was so nicely recited, and also Prema Vilas and Mataji. Thank you so much. The verse that we're going to be reading today is from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 9, verse number 32. So we're supposed to be covering almost like, well, verses 32 to 49, but unfortunately, there's so many beautiful purports in each of the verses. So I've asked if I could just cover 3 verses. We're going according to the system as laid by the facilitators, following the accompaniment book of the Srimad Bhagavatam. So the verses today I'm going to be reading is Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 9, verse 32, 33, and 34. But for the purport, I'll be reading from 32. So I'll just switch on my camera. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay, Great. Thank you so much. Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayan Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottanam Devim Saraswati Vyasam Tato Jayamudriye Ashashu Bhadreshu Nitya Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatamutam Shloke Bhakti Bhavati Naistiki Shri Pushma Vacha Iti Mati Kalpita Krishna Bhagavati Sarvata Pungave Vibhumi Swasukam Apagate Kvalchit Viortum Prakritim Upayushi Yad Bhava Pravaha. Word for word translation. Shri Bhishma Vacha, Shri Bhishma Dev said, Iti thus, Matahi, thinking, feeling, and willing. Upakalpita, invested. Vitrishna, freed from all sense desires. Bhagavati, unto the personality of Godhead. Satvata Pungave, unto the leader of the devotees. Vibhubni, unto the great. Svasukam, self-satisfaction. Bhagate, unto he who has attained it. Bhajit, sometimes. Vihartum, out of transcendental pleasure. Prakritim, in the material world. Upayusi, to accept it. Yadbhava, from whom the creation. Prabhavaha, is made and annihilated. Translation. Bhishmadev said, let me now invest my thinking, feeling, and willing, which were so long in different subjects and occupational duties. The all-powerful Lord Shri Krishna is always self-satisfied, but sometimes being the leader of the devotees, he enjoys transcendental pleasures by descending to the material world, although from him only the material world is created. Okay, purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Because Bhishma Dev was a statesman, the head of the Kuru dynasty, a great general and a leader of Kshatriyas, his mind was strewn over so many subjects, and his thinking, feeling, and willing were engaged in different matters. Now, in order to achieve pure devotional service, he wanted to invest all powers of thinking, feeling, and willing entirely in the Supreme Being. Lord Krishna, thinking, feeling, and willing entirely in the Supreme Being, Lord Krishna. He is described herein as the leader of the devotees and all-powerful. Although Lord Krishna is the original personality of Godhead, he himself descends to earth to bestow upon his pure devotees the boon of devotional service. He descends sometimes as Lord Krishna, as he is, and sometimes as Lord Chaitanya. Both are leaders of the pure devotees. Pure devotees of the Lord have no desire other than the service of the Lord. Therefore, they are called Sattvata. The Lord is the chief amongst such Sattvatas. Bhishma Dev, therefore, had no other desires. Unless one is purified from all sorts of material desires, the Lord does not become one's leader. Desires cannot be wiped out, but they have only to be purified. It is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita 10.10 by the Lord himself that he gives his instructions from within the heart of a pure devotee who is constantly engaged in the service of the Lord. Such instructions is given not for any material purpose, but only for going back home, back to Godhead. For the ordinary man who wants to lord it over material nature, the Lord only sanctions, becomes a witness of activities, but he never gives the non-devotees instructions for going back to Godhead. That is the difference in dealings by the Lord with different living beings, both the devotees and the non-devotee. He is leader of all the living beings. As the king of the state rules both the prisoners and the free citizens. But his dealings are different in terms of devotee and non-devotee. Non-devotees never care to take any instructions from the Lord, and therefore the Lord is silent in their case. Although he witnesses all their activities and awards them the necessary results, good or bad, the devotees are above this material goodness and badness. they are progressive on the path of transcendence, and therefore they have no desire for anything material. The devotee also knows Sri Krishna as the original Narayan, because Lord Sri Krishna, by his plenary portion, appears as a Karandakshay Vishnu, the original source of all material creation. The Lord also desires the association of his pure devotees. And for them only, the Lord descends to the earth and enlivens them. The Lord appears out of his own will, is not forced by the conditions of material nature, is therefore described here as a Vibhu of the Almighty, for he is never conditioned by the laws of material nature. I'll quickly read verse 33 and 34. Verse 33, Sri Krishna is the intimate friend of Arjuna. He has appeared on this earth in his transcendental body, which resembles the bluish color of the tamala tree. His body attracts everyone in the three planetary systems, upper, middle, and lower. With his glittering yellow dress and his lotus face, covered with paintings of sandalwood pulp, be the object of my attraction, and may I not desire fruitive results. Verse 34, on the battlefield where Sri Krishna attended Arjuna out of friendship, the flowing hair of the Lord, Krishna turned ashen due to dust raised by the hoofs of the horses. Because of his labor, beads of sweat wetted his face. All these decorations, intensified by the wounds dealt by my sharp arrows, were enjoyed by him. Let my mind thus go unto Krishna. Again, I recite the invocation prayers. Please do join in. Amagyana Timrandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurmanatam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Svayam Rupakadamayam Tadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Bhagavatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagapate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namustate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhana Sutta Devi Pranamami Hari Priya Panchakalpatarubhyasya Kripa Sindhubhyaiva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasa Gaura Bhaktivinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. First of all, I'd like to offer my obeisances to my Special Master Bhakti Churu Swami, Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Churu Swami Tenamine, and also to Jagat Guru, ISKCON founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Tenamine, Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvashesa Sanyavadi Paschatya Desatarine. And to all the devotees listening to today's class, may I give a class today which is beneficial and pleasing to the devotees on the glories and topics of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna and his devotees. So as I mentioned, today's verse we're going to 32. So I'll just read the translation once again. Vishmadev said, let me now invest my thinking, feeling and willing, which were so long engaged in different subjects and occupational duties. The all-powerful Lord Shri Krishna is always self-satisfied, but sometimes being the leader of the devotees, enjoys transcendental pleasure by descending to the material world, although from him only the material world is created. So there's a beautiful verse once again, and also the purport by Srila Prabhupada is quite amazing because Prabhupada explains so many different aspects just for this one particular verse. I'm going to break it up into smaller pieces, but I'm going to focus more on the thinking, feeling, and willing, what it is for the devotee and the non-devotee. Now, I know many of you are very shy and maybe feel embarrassed asking questions. So today I'm going to ask 3 questions at the end. So not that we want to test you or check whether you're listening or not, but certainly from your point of view of what you understood or what you feel is the answer or the realizations that you get from this particular verse. So there's 3 particular things, thinking. We're always having hundreds and hundreds of thoughts. Does anybody know how many thoughts we have in a day? So according to the National Science Foundation, we have 60,000 thoughts per day. That's incredible. So many thoughts per day. We don't even realize that. Even when they're sleeping, we have in so many thoughts. Does anybody know how many thoughts of those 80% are negative? I actually gave you the answer. 80%. 80% of those thoughts are negative. Can you imagine? Our thoughts are so covered with negativity in our lives. And then, do you know how much percentages of those thoughts are repetitive? So according to the National Science Foundation, when they do, I don't know how they carry out these statistics, but it says that 95% of our thoughts are repetitive. Perhaps the same old thing again and again and again. We're not getting any answers. Today, Guru Maharaj was given such a wonderful class, but I shall build you a temple, about the story of the beautiful temple in Mumbai, the Jew temple in Mumbai, and the difficulties that the devotees had faced. One of the things that really struck my mind, he was asked by Srila Prabhupada, I want you to go to either Madras, I want you to go to Calcutta, or I want you to go to Mumbai to start preaching about Krishna consciousness. And he didn't know what to do, so he prayed to the Lord in front of the Lord. But the funny comment Guru Maharaj said was that I did not get an answer. And many of us, we also feel like that. We go to the Supreme Lord, giving out our revelations, our thoughts, what's in our mind. Krishna, my desire is that I want to serve you. Is it? My Krishna, my desire is that I want a nice house. Krishna, my desire is that I have a nice partner. Krishna, my desire is that I overcome all the difficulties in our life. So we have so many thoughts. Many of those thoughts, for whether it's a devotee or non-devotee, of course, for a devotee, it's very good if it's pure thoughts about serving the devotees, remembering Krishna all the time. If they're repetitive, that's really nice. But for a non-devotee, his thoughts are completely the opposite. Now, what do we have our thoughts on? We have so many thoughts. We have thoughts on work, we have thoughts on life, we have thoughts on money, love, hate, desire, relationships, one thought after another. Even when we're actually listening to this class, or if I'm listening to another class, my thoughts are wandering away. And it's just like when you go on Google, you want to search something, and then you find what you want, then it's got another topic, and then you say, oh, let me have a look at that. Then it goes to another topic. And before you know it, you're in Timbuktu, and you're thinking, hang on a minute, I just wanted to go to Bangladesh. How did I end up in Timbuktu? So those are the way I thought, just like a sort of complex map, and we're never satisfied in whatever answer we get. We're always constantly striving, thinking. So sometimes, what are the negative thoughts that we have? There's many negative thoughts. We have pessimism, which are issues or problems that we have in our day-to-day life. Sometimes we have thoughts of criticism, somebody we dislike. Sometimes we have thoughts about just laziness, procrastination, want to do these things, but I can't. I just not feeling enthusiastic, not feeling inspired, not really have any motivation at all. We have a lot of pessimism in our life. We want to be very pessimistic, but at this time, or rather we want to be opportunistic. Is that the right word? Optimistic. But sometimes we have pessimism in our lives all the time. The other thoughts is rumination. We have so many thoughts of obsessions, so many thoughts of desires, of wanting certain things, which is beyond our control. Sometimes Krishna, as for devotees, he prevents you from having those, what we desire, which will hinder in our spiritual life, because that particular desire that you may have will take you to right you from your supreme goal or your personal goal of attaining pure bhakti. So sometimes Krishna rewards certain desires, but sometimes he doesn't. Specifically for devotee, he only gives the blessings of them wanting to come to the Supreme Lord and be engaged in devotional service. So for a karmi, which we'll go on later on, they may have desires, but Krishna rewards them accordingly, whether it's good or bad. We also have thoughts of perfectionism. We always desire to strive for the best. We want to be somebody recognized. We want to be somebody who's been very happy in whatever projects or whatever activities they do. They want to be very satisfied in that particular actions that we've taken. We want to be perfect in our failures or overcome certain failures, overcome hardships. So we don't feel like an embarrassment. We don't feel that we're inferior to other people. We see so many people who are perhaps become materialistically well off or have many sort of a social circle of life. We want to sort of emulate that same personality, but we realize that even if we do, we're still not 100% happy. We always want to hanker for more and more. Somebody wants to get $100, they want $1,000, then 10,000, then 100,000, then 1,000,000. Our desires never stop, and that is the nature of the soul. It's constantly having desire. It cannot stop even for a moment itself. So Bhishma Dev, as a leader of the clan of the Guru dynasty, he was so fixed in serving his king, King Dhritarashtra. He made a vow that he will protect his kingdom. He had a duty, and because he was so absorbed in politics, so absorbed in Kshatriya warfare, he completely lost thought about his personal or ultimate duty. And now he's on the death of, on the bed of arrows, and it's coming to the last moment of his life, and he regrets so many things that he's done in his life. He feels remorse that I wasted my time, my valuable time, instead of serving the Supreme Lord, instead of investing all my life, my opportunity, my strength, my intelligence in serving the Lord. I wasted all that for material gain. And look at the results, it all came into vain. The cause of his desire to serve his kingdom ultimately led to his death. And why? Even though he was a pure devotee, we explained this in our previous chat classes, that Bhishma Dev was on the side of the Kuru dynasty, were full of envy, full of hatred, full of remote desires to kill the Pandavas, who are pure devotees. They were completely devoted to the Supreme Lord, but the Supreme Lord always protected them. Whatever dangers that was faced upon them, was the Supreme Lord who ensured that they were not facing that danger in any way. There was no calamities. Even though Queen Kunti says that, please allow these calamities to happen, so that they could remember the Supreme Lord. So in one way, she knew that the Supreme Lord was a divine intervention of all the calamities that they were facing. So when we have feelings, I'm just going to share you something. Hopefully it works. I'll just share. So recently somebody gave a nice class at ISKCON London, and it so happened to be on the topic of passing of Srimad, passing of Bhishma Dev. And she went into detail as well about some of the thoughts that we have in our mind. The next topic was, although we were thinking, the next version was feeling. We have so many feelings in our life. But I'll just read you some things when our feelings are not actually met. So I just wanted to make sure you can see that. Angry, we feel mad, we feel furious, we feel enraged, upset, bitter, desperate, annoyed, frustrated, impatient, irritated, agitated, anxious, worried, skeptical, suspicious, hesitant, confused, torn, insecure, troubled, concerned, stressed, overwhelmed, fearful, afraid, scared, reluctant, horrified, sad, discouraged, disappointed, depressed, lonely, uneasy, uncomfortable, hurt, embarrassed, miserable, uninterested, bored, apathetic, hopeless, numb, and distant. So you can imagine all these feelings that we have every day. I'm sure most of you have at least 80% of those feelings some way or another every day or sometime in their life during the week. We're always feeling angry, we're feeling mad because certain things that aren't happening for our benefit, because we think we are the Lord of all that we survey. But actually, if we transfer that into serving the Supreme Lord, maybe that anger could turn it into something of a passion for serving the Lord. Maybe our desire to be upset, maybe way we can become happy to serve the Lord. All these unwanted thoughts or feelings that we have, we've got to transform it into a way which is more positive and allowing us to overcome the 6 enemies within us: anger, lust, greed, envy, passion, anger, lust, greed, envy, illusion, and pride. We have all these anathas within our lives all the time, but if we can transform those qualities, bad qualities, into good qualities, then we can learn how to serve the Supreme Lord in such a nice way, serve the devotees in such a way. So we can see from the feelings when our needs are met. Supposing you're doing a service, you feel fully satisfied. When you've done the service, based on your consciousness, you feel happy because you're serving the Lord in a nice way. If fruit offering, book distribution, making garlands for the Lord, preaching, doing Goshala service, gardening, cooking, so much wonderful, unlimited service for the Supreme Lord. But when we engage ourselves, our feeling, our expressions of love manifest by the purity of our own heart. And we can see that because other devotees actually see us being happy, more blissful, more engaged, more loving. We discuss only on the topics of Krishna. We don't want to listen to any negative thoughts. We want to help those who are having difficulties to bring them closer to the Supreme Lord, because we've also faced those difficulties ourselves at some way or another, form, shape. But when our feelings are met, what are the feelings that we feel? What are the symptoms that we have? We feel comfortable, we feel satisfied, we feel content, we feel fulfilled, we feel safe, secure, curious, interested, fascinated, surprised, motivated, enthusiastic, hopeful, excited, eager, stimulated, amused, grateful, appreciative, thankful, encouraged, pleased, happy, glad, joyful, delighted, amazed, thrilled, ecstatic, loving, connected, touched, moved, nurtured, supported, peaceful, relieved, calm, relaxed, at ease, open, tranquil, rested, refreshed, invigorated, alert, active, adventurous, secure, confident, clear, strong, inspired, empowered. So now I'm just going to quickly ask a question. Does anybody have a feeling that they've had when they were serving Krishna or the devotees? I'm just using this example. You don't have to go into detail, that they felt really frustrated, but at the end, they realized their mistake and they felt that they should actually correct themselves. Does anyone feel that they want to ask that comment on something that they've done? They felt frustrated at the beginning. Perhaps they were cooking and there was no boga. Perhaps the cooking got burnt. Perhaps things didn't go right. And then afterwards, when you were sort of realizing your mistakes, you came to a sort of a reflection. Oh, no. I must control my mind, must control my anger, my desires to serve Krishna nicely. Anybody want to say anything? Nobody? Everyone feeling shy? Okay.
Hare
Well,
Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Krishna Vanumataji, yes.
Yeah, Prabhu, like before, I used to help with, 4 o'clock offerings. So yeah, when you go into Krishna kitchen, sometimes when you want to do some preps and then you don't find what you need, the ingredients are not there. So sometimes you do get frustrated or, like what you call, a bit of anxious that how you're going to, you need to find, like the ingredients in time and you start cooking because, it's a pressure to, like cooking in time and everything. But, somehow or other, once you start, like, you manage by Krishna's mercy and at the end, yes, you manage to do it in time. And then you feel so satisfied that yes, I know in the beginning you might get anxious and a bit worried, or sometimes you might get even angry that, oh, what you want is not there. But at the end, yeah, the result is good because everything is in Krishna's hands and you feel satisfied.
Thank you so much, Krishna Mataji. Very brave of you to share that as well, because sometimes we do feel shy. We feel a bit embarrassed because we shouldn't have been in that mode in the first place. But we are human nature. We're all learning. Myself, I had the same situation like Krishna Mataji was saying, because once I was doing the 4 o'clock offering, and you have to make the fruit juices, you have to do 3 bowls of different types of fruits, you have to do a cake, you have to do another dessert, and cookies as well. And I'm not a very good cook at all, you know. If any of you came to my house for prasadam and I cooked, I think most of you will end up in hospital. But what had happened, I made some cookies, and you have to do it according to a certain time, because you can only have the kitchen between 2 and 4, because at 4 o'clock, the offering has to be in there 10 to 4. So you have about 1 hour, 50 minutes. And I did the cookies, and I was so happy. I'm doing this service for Krishna. I was on my own. Then for some reason, I do the timing and everything the same for every sort of time I make these specific cookies, Australian cookies. And when I did it, it was slightly undercooked. Then I said, okay, let me just put it on for 3 more minutes. And when I put it on for 3 minutes, you know, what had happened, they were completely burnt. All the cookies were burnt. And I felt, oh no, they're so burnt. Now I felt angry, I felt frustrated, I felt demotivated. Maybe Krishna doesn't want my offering. Maybe I'm a bad devotee. Maybe I've done some karmic offenses to somebody. And then quickly I had to make another preparation, put it in the oven. Luckily they came out. Although my heart was pumping, because when you do service for the Supreme Lord, when the offering goes on, even if it's a second late, that's a karmic reaction for you, even though you're trying your best to serve the Lord. So then you felt happy afterwards. So we do feel that sense of insecurity at the beginning when things go wrong, but then afterwards, everything's in Krishna's hand, and Krishna serves his devotees just as well, just as the devotees serve Krishna. So we have unlimited desires. You know, within our feelings, we are limited. We're having happiness, we're having prosperity, we have certain ambitions in life, both spiritually and materially. We feel also, consider ourselves to be superior in some ways. Oh, I'm a big devotee. I've been in the movement for many years. How gave a garland to this devotee and not to me? You know, it's just a newcomer. Why have they asked him to speak? Sometimes those thoughts come and creep up in our mind. Because we're not at the main verse that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu tells us to recite every day in our life. It's like Radhanath Maharaj says that we should wear it around our neck. Anybody except for Krishna Mataji? I know she's very good. Anybody want to give it a try? What verse from the Shikshastakam I'm referring to? About humility, about tolerance, about not expecting any sort of desires or recognition. Anybody? No? Okay. The verse says, Trinada peace and
It's a family, so we should not be afraid of, like even if we make mistake, it's a family group. So Hare Krishna, everybody should try.
Yeah, thank you, Krishna Mataji. So the verse says, Trinada peace and Dharopi Saishtana, Manina Manadina Ketanya Sadari. So there's 4 points that we can learn from this particular verse. One should chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind. We should be humble. So when we have our feelings, we should be humble about chanting the holy name. We should be humble like a blade of grass. The grass is always constantly being trodden on when it's on the street, kicked around. But the grass or the straw does not sort of retaliate, does not answer back. It just accepts its duty. We should be tolerant like a tree. Within a tree, it's just standing still. It's enduring all sorts of elements of the different weather, the heat, the cold, the rain, excessive rain as well. But it bears fruits. It's always given shelter to everybody. It's always tolerant. No matter how much the force of the wind tries to blow it down, it still stays still. So we have to be tolerant like a tree. We have to be devoid of all sense of false prestige. Sometimes oh, I'm going to give it a class. Oh, I sing nicely. Sometimes that false prestige comes in and creeps in in the form of pride, and then you end up having envy because you feel that somebody's getting more attention than yourself. We should try and let go of that false prestige. And finally, to offer respect to all others. And that is one of the most difficult ones that many devotees, well, sorry, in my case, respecting everybody, not just devotees, but also non-devotees, because as you know, when you're dealing with non-devotees, they want to take advantage of you. They want to burden you with extra work. They want to burden you by criticizing you or tormenting you or saying things which are not favorable to you about your beliefs, about the way you look. Try to respect that person, whether it's a devotee or non-devotee. It's not an easy thing. So the final one is just like also, just like Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, that we should become a friend to everybody, whether equal to everybody, whether it's a friend or an enemy. We should be happy in both in victory or defeat, gain or loss, in the cold or the heat. We have to be so tolerant in whatever difficulties that come across us. The final one is willing. So we are trying to we're willing to do so many things. We're ready. We're trying to be ready. We're trying to be prepared. We're trying to overcome obstacles in our life. Come what may, we have a determined resolution. Certainly, a willing is an important factor in our spiritual life. If we don't have any willingness, then there's a stagnant process in our spiritual life. When we become stagnant, then we're thinking again and again, wow, look at this bhakta. He only just came 2 or 3 months ago. It's advancing so quickly. Look how humble he is. Look how nice it looks. Look how wonderful classes it gives. How come I'm not sort of advancing myself? Because we're not giving that willing, that desire, that motivation, that way of actually following on from understanding the instructions of our spiritual master is so important. So we also have universal needs as well. When we have universal needs, these are some of the words that come up as universal needs. When we actually feel both spiritually or materially, belonging, inclusion, cooperation, community, connection, acceptance, appreciation, to be seen, celebration, play, joy, humor, inspiration, mourning, choice, freedom, dignity, space, creativity, spontaneity. It does go on. Because we're running short of time, I wanted to just focus back on the purport itself. So there's one particular word that Srila Prabhupada actually uses, and this is called sattvata. So who is the Lord? The Lord is the chief among sattvata. So sattvata is somebody who is a pure devotee of the Lord, have no desire other than the service of the Lord. But the Lord is the chief among such tattvatas. Bhishmadev therefore had no other desires. So he wanted to purify his mind as well. He wanted to surrender to the Supreme Lord. Now, there's a particular verse from the Bhagavad Gita Srila Prabhupada quoted. Does anybody know what that verse is? It's one of the Chatu shlokas. Third one. I'll give you a clue. To those who are constantly devoted. Krishna Mataji, do you know the verse? Okay. Bhagavad Gita, chapter 10, verse 10. Do you want to read it, Krishna Mataji?
It's not in front of
Oh,
me.
sorry. Yes, sorry. Oops.
I know it won't come straight.
Sorry. I forgot I was sharing another screen. Can you see it now?
Yeah. Tesham satatayuktanam bhajatam pritipurvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam yena mama upayanti te.
Okay, read the translation.
To those who are constantly devoted to serving me with love, I give the understanding by which they can come to me.
Yes. So when a devotee is constantly devoted to serving the Supreme Lord with love, the Supreme Lord, he gives them the understanding, gives them the intelligence. As we know, Krishna says, from me comes knowledge, remembrance, and forgetfulness. So we want that knowledge, we want that understanding how to serve the Supreme Lord. So there's another verse within the Bhagavad Gita. I know there's hundreds of 700 verses, but of those particular verses which Krishna spoke, there's another verse which I'd like to share with you. This is one of my favorite verses. Anybody else want to recite this? Krishangi Mataji? If you are there? Or anybody else? Okay.
Yeah, I
But-
can do it.
Yeah, sure. Okay.
Bhaktya mam abhijanati yavan yasyasmi tatavata tato mam tattvato gnatva vishate tad anantaram. Shall I read the translation?
Yes, please. Yeah.
One can understand me as I am as the Supreme Personality of Godhead only by devotional service. And when one is in full consciousness of me by such devotion, he can enter into the kingdom of God.
Yeah. This is such a beautiful verse. So
Mhm.
I think it sort of relates to the verse that Srila Prabhupada was quoting in the previous purport that we were reading. One can understand me as I am. It's only by devotional service. But he also mentions in that in the purport, Prabhupada mentions that Lord Shri Krishna does not give that devotional service to a non-devotee. So when we talk about non-devotee, we're talking about the miscreants. Now there's 4 types of non-devotees. But there's 4 types of devotees. Those desire wealth, those desire, just have to remind myself, those who are in distress, those who desire wealth, those who are inquisitive, those who are searching for the absolute truth, and beyond that, those who are completely surrendered unto the Supreme Lord because they know that He is the Supreme Lord. Now, also, there's 4 types of non-devotees. Does anybody know what they are? Okay, I'll quickly share this with you. This is from Bhagavad Gita, chapter 7, verse 15. Those miscreants who are grossly foolish, who are the lowest among mankind, those knowledge is stolen by illusion, and who partake of the atheistic nature of the demons do not surrender to me. So there's 4 types altogether. The first one is the miscreants, the grossly foolish. They're called the mudas. The second one is the lowest among men. They're called the nara adama. The third type of people who don't believe in the Supreme Lord are those whose knowledge is stolen by illusion. They are known as mayaya pahita jnanam. The fourth one of the type of non-believers are partake in atheistic nature of demons. They are called asuram bhavam ashritam. That's in the shloka here itself. So coming to the end of this class, I didn't realize it's almost 1:45. Thinking, feeling, and willing is it's always on a bodily concept, sense enjoyment, gratification, gambling, intoxication, illicit sex, meat eating. Those are the vices that prevent us from coming into Krishna consciousness. But the Lord is a supreme witness within our hearts, and He gives those qualities to those who are surrendered to Him. He won't give devotional service to His non-devotees, but only those who are constantly devoted to serving Him with love. He gives the understanding to them. So, but at the same time, even if a karmi does certain activities, He also gives them the results based on their activities, akarma, vikarma, or just karma itself. So it's not that the God is partial. God is obviously, He is not envious. He is partial to none. He's equal to all. But whosoever renders service unto Him in devotional service is a friend in Him, and He is a friend in that person as well. So just quickly, 3 questions I'm going to ask. From which Bhagavad Gita did Srila Prabhupada reverse mentioned in this Bhagavad Gita purport that we were reading? You got the answer at the top as well. You referred to Bhagavad Gita chapter 10, verse 10, which Krishna Mataji was reading. To those who are constantly devoted to serving me with love, give the understanding by which they can come to me. Second question is, what are the 4 types of devotees? And non-devotees, beg your pardon. Krishna Mataji?
Who are Dushkritino and envious person.
Mudas.
Yeah,
Yeah.
mood. You're right. Yeah.
Muda, discretina, miscreant, foolish, grossly foolish. Naradama, the lowest among men.
Yeah.
Mayaya Pahirta, Jnanam, those whose knowledge is stolen by illusion. And Asura, Bhavam, Ashram, those who partake atheistic nature of demons. So well done. And the third question is, what are the three actions did Bhishmadev say in order to follow and focus on the Supreme Personality of Godhead? What are the three words he used from that
Thinking.
Yes?
Thinking, willing,
Yep.
thinking, willing, and oh Krishna. Thinking,
Feeling and willing.
feeling,
Good. Well done. Thinking, feeling, willing. And as we
willing.
mentioned, we all have hundreds of thoughts, positive thoughts, negative thoughts, but most of our thoughts are negative and repetitive. But we have to focus our thoughts on Krishna. We have so many feelings of desires. We have to focus those desires to serve Krishna. We're willing to be active in our life, but the more we become active in our devotional goal to the Supreme Lord, to his lotus feet, serving the devotees, we can actually understand how to get ourselves from this material pangs of birth, death, old age, and disease. So sorry I've gone slightly over time. We won't have any time for questions, or if there's any comment, please do so. But in the meantime, Shriji Kishore Mataji, are you sharing the screen?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, it's Jyoti Mataji will be sharing the screen.
Oh, Jyoti Mataji, yeah, okay.
Thank you.
Okay, no worries. Thank you, everyone. Please accept my humble obeisances. Please forgive me for any offenses to and mistakes. Anchakapa Tarubhyasha, Kripa Sindhubhya Vacha, Patitana Bhavanebhyo
Bhavanebhyo
Vaishnavebhyo Namo
Vaishnavebhyo Namo
Namaha.
Namaha.
Just wanted to say one thing quickly before we start, Mataji. I know all of you are so dedicated because it's the regulars who come in every day. But don't feel shy, don't feel embarrassed. You may say something that you may feel out of context, but that desire, that question, that inquisitiveness allows you to become stronger in your Krishna consciousness. So please do participate. I know it's not forced upon anybody, but you'll find out the more you participate, the more you think, oh my gosh, let me ask another question. Let me find out what is it that Krishna is saying in this Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna. So once again, please forgive me for any mistakes as well. Hare Krishna, thank you.
Thank you, Prabhuji, for the lovely class.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Thank
So
you.
I'll
Wonderful.
thank you, Prabhuji. Okay, can I read the English translation now? This bhajan is called Nadia Godrume. In the land of Nadia, on the island of Godruma, the magnanimous Lord Nityananda has opened up the marketplace of the holy name, meant for the deliverance of all fallen souls. O people of faith, O people of faith, by the order of Lord Gauranga, O brothers, I beg these three requests of you. Chant Hare Krishna, worship Hare Krishna, and teach others about Krishna, being careful to remain free of offenses. Just take the holy name of Lord Krishna. Krishna is your mother, Krishna is your father, and Krishna is the treasure of your life. Giving up all sinful activities, carry on your worldly duties only in relation to Lord Krishna. The showing of compassion to other souls by loudly chanting the holy name of Krishna is the essence of all forms of religion. Hare Krishna. Namrata Mataji, when you're ready, you may start. Thank you.
Thank you, Mataji, for the wonderful recitation. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Can you hear me, Prabhuji?
Yes, we can hear you. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. My Danut Pranam to all the assembled devotees. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. This is the first time I'm singing this Bengali bhajan, so please apologize. I apologize right from the advance, so please forgive me for any mistakes. And thank you, Santosh Mataji, for always giving me the opportunity. नदिया नदिया गोद्र में नित्यानंद महाजन पतिया चे नाम हटा जीवेरा कारण नदिया नदिया गोद्रु में नित्यानंद महाजन पतियाचे नाम हटा जीवेरा कारण श्रद्धावान जान है श्रद्धावान जान है श्रद्धावान जान है श्रद्धावान जान है पतियाचे नाम हटा जीवेरा कारण पतियाचे नाम हटा जीवेरा कारण नदिया नदिया गोद्रु में नित्यानंद महाजन पतियाचे नाम हटा जीवेरा कारण प्रभु रायग्नाय भाई मांगिए भिक्षा प्रभु रागनाय भाई मांगिए भिक्षा बोलो कृष्ण भजो कृष्ण करो कृष्ण शिक्षा हो भज बोलो कृष्ण भजो कृष्ण करो कृष्ण शिक्षा नदिया नदिया गोद्रु में नित्यानंद महाजन पतियाचे नाम हटा जीवेरा कारण अपराध शून्य होइलो हो कृष्ण नाम अपराध शून्य होइलो हो कृष्ण नाम कृष्ण माता कृष्ण पिता कृष्ण धन प्राण कृष्ण माता कृष्ण पिता कृष्ण धन प्राण नदिया नदिया गोद्रु में नित्यानंद महाजन पतियाचे नाम हटा जीवेरा कारण कृष्ण रे संसार करो चाडिया नचार कृष्ण रे संसार करो चाडिया नचार जीवे दोया कृष्ण नाम सर्वधर्म सार जीवे दोयो कृष्ण नाम सर्वधर्म सार नदिया नदिया गोद्रु में नित्यानंद महाजन पतियाचे नाम हटा जीवेरा कारण नदिया नदिया गोद्रु में नित्यानंद महाजन पतियाचे नाम हटा जीवेरा कारण Thank you, Mataji.
Hare Krishna. Wonderful singing, Mataji. Beautiful. Thank you.
Thank
No,
you.
that was so beautiful. Thank you, Namrata Mataji. You sing so nicely. So thank you everyone for joining in. I don't know if anybody has sung that song, Hari Hari Bifale.
Not as yet, Prabhuji.
Okay, if you know somebody who likes to sing that, it's Sri Kishore Mataji, because that was one of Srila Prabhupada's favorite songs.
Yes,
And the
that's right.
translation on that is so beautiful. You know, if you are able to find somebody, or
Yes.
Namrata Mataji is happy to sing next time. I won't be here
Yes.
next Sunday, but perhaps do it when I'm there the following Sunday. That's because it's one of my favorite songs too.
Yeah, mine too. It's absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, it's so many wonderful. When you read the translation, you think, oh my gosh, Bhaktivinoda Thakur has actually written that song, you know, for our own benefit, how he actually, you know, in our sort of day-to-day life, as I mentioned about pessimism and ruination and so many things, we just have to focus our life back into Krishna again. So thank you so much, everyone joining in. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you,
Nice
Prabhuji. Hare
class.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Haribo.
Hare Krishna. Thank you for the nice
Hare Krishna. Thank you.